Welcome back. Tonight we continue our commitment to provide a forum to compare and contrast the candidates running for office this fall. Tonight, the Sarasota County Commission District Number 2. Republican Christian Ziegler is a familiar face, a frequent political analyst here and elsewhere. Democrat Ruta Gennari is also well known. She ran for her party's nomination in the special election for House 72 last spring. We'd like to welcome them both, and we'd like to start by giving you both a minute to introduce yourselves to our audience. And Christian, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a familiar face on this channel. As you mentioned, I've been here often. 35 years old, moved to Sarasota County in 2006 to come work for U.S. Congressman Vern Buchanan. After that, well, before that, I worked in the State House as well, so I have state and federal experience. And then after working for Congressman Buchanan, I broke off into the private sector. A couple blocks from here, right downtown Sarasota, grew a business from 0 employees to about 25 employees locally, dealt with the struggles of growing a business, hiring, firing, managing a budget, all of that stuff here locally. And what it really did is uncover some challenges that we have in Sarasota County where we can improve our economy. But recently I broke off and started my own business, so now I'm working for myself on my own business. And about a year ago or so, right after Hurricane Irma, Commissioner Paul Caragiulo reached out to me and said, look, I'm going to run for re-election unless I can recruit you and convince you to run for my seat. County Commission wasn't on my radar, decided to run, got in the race, and been running ever since.
Okay. Ruta.
Well, I decided to run for District 72, as you mentioned, just because of what I've seen in Sarasota. I've been here 20 years, and what I've seen is continual changes, and not for the good necessarily. I've seen the environment fall apart. We see it with red tide. I see overdevelopment, traffic issues. All of these things are a concern to me as they are to everyone else. And so after mulling things over, decided to toss my hat in for County Commissioner, because County Commissioner really affects day-to-day lives of Sarasota County residents even more than a Congress seat or other seats. So it really gives an opportunity to help day-to-day in the frustrations that all of us as residents have. And it's a bipartisan thing, because it doesn't matter if you're Democrat, non-party, Republican. When you sit in traffic, we all sit in traffic. It doesn't matter what party hat you have on that day. So that's really why I'm running.
Welcome back. Tonight, the race for Sarasota County Commission District 2, and we welcome back Republican Christian Ziegler and Democrat Ruta Gennari. And folks, I'm going to ask you the same question in two very different ways, particular to both of you, and that is why you are running. Christian, as we said at the outset, you have been a frequent guest on this show. We see your passion talking about national issues. You talk about your conservative causes. When you look on your social media, like Twitter, you're mostly talking about what's happening in Washington and how it impacts us. So why is the Sarasota County Commission your passion, or is it?
No, it is. To be honest, it was never on my radar to run. This wasn't something that I was planning on running for office. I didn't recently run in a race, lose, and try to find another seat. I mean, my plan this entire time was really not to run, but I had a current county commissioner that reached out to me and frankly said, look, you're a working class family, you and your wife are here, and which is true. And then I started thinking about it, and the more he lobbied me, the more I thought, look, my wife and I, we work here. My parents retired here on Longboat Key. Our girls are going to school here. I got a 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, and they're going to grow up here. I'm never leaving Sarasota County. I'm very fortunate. I got here a lot earlier than most people do. And, the County Commission gives me an opportunity and a platform to help shape this community in a better way that I believe it should be shaped. And, again, I'm going to be here forever. I don't plan on ever leaving. And I want my girls that when they go to college, most likely they're probably going to go to college somewhere else. I want this to be a place that they're going to come back and want to live, because I want to be around my grandkids eventually in the future. So that's my passion. That's why I'm running. I've always said for over 10 years, local government's the most important government. And as Ruta mentioned, it's something that you can do and have a direct impact instantly is through local government.
Ruta, same question to you, but I'll ask it to you in this way. We understand why you want to run for this office, but for better or for worse, and it's probably for worse, it's all about money and being able to communicate with voters out there. In both your recent filings with the elections, you raised a little over $18,000 for this race compared to Christian, who has raised almost $60,000. How are you going to win this race if you can't communicate with the voters out there in the same way that your opponent can?
Well, I think for my opponent, his strength in the numbers and the numbers game is basically going to be dependent on getting mailers out to people. I'm going grassroots, I'm going door to door, I'm going to town hall meetings, I'm going to neighborhood association meetings. So I'm actually meeting with the constituents one-on-one rather than looking at a bigger strategy of probably just dumping a lot of expensive shiny things in front of these people that are going to be voting. And I think the other thing is, I think the sincerity of myself having worked with a 501c and establishing a free medical clinic here, I do understand the needs of the people, and I understand the people. I'm not chasing Washington or Tallahassee. My posts aren't Washington and Tallahassee. My posts are about giving back to this community, helping this community the best way I can. And for me, if it means knocking on more doors, making more phone calls, that's what it's going to take to win. I'll do that.
Okay, we are just getting warmed up. Our debate on the District 2 for Sarasota County Commission will continue after a quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. Tonight, the race for Sarasota County Commission District 2, and we welcome Republican Christian Ziegler and Democrat Ruta Gennari. Christian, as you know, one of the biggest issues facing our area is development. Some people believe the overdevelopment of the Suncoast here. I mentioned some of the amount of money that you and Ruta have raised during this election. You've raised almost $60,000. Can't help but notice that among your contributors, a lot of those developers like Pat Neal, Benderson, and there are a lot of people concerned that those developers wield way too much influence on the county commission. So when you hear that, how do you respond?
Look, I've been a grassroots activist for over 10 years here in Sarasota County. I've, within the party, and what I've done is throughout the years is I've focused on the people. I focused on the grassroots and worked my way up that way. These developers, and I agree, I think there's some concern with overdevelopment in the area. We need to be smart about development. There are certain things that we should be doing that we're not doing. When you start talking about the contributors, I mean, here's the truth. You go down my contribution list, it's not just total amount of money, it's also how many contributions you've received, individual contributions. And I'll tell you, my treasurer gets pretty upset because I have a lot of $20.18 contributions from the people, rank and file people. And when you start looking at these developers that give, look, they obviously know that I'm someone that's going to win, and people want to be with a winner. And I wasn't their first pick. I'm not the construction candidate. I didn't go through the natural progression, which is get on the Sarasota Planning Commission, work your way up to County Commission. This is something I got in the race, and I have a lot of grassroots party support. And sometimes I get criticized for that support, but I do have that support. And look, they're donating, but it's $200 limits, Alan. For anyone to say that you can be bought up by a $200 limit is complete nonsense.
Well, Ruta, let me ask you this question. If you were to win this race, you would be the first Democrat to win countywide and sit on this commission in decades. So what could one person do in order to rein back the development that some people believe is overrunning our county?
Well, I think it's a start if we get a Democrat in, but I want to address Christian's grassroots effort. Accepting over 60% of your contributions from developers will leave you beholden to them. I'm sorry. And saying you're a winner because they chose you, is it that, or is it because they actually see that they can influence you more than somebody else? And I'm sorry, giving $200 1,000 times, that will get you your numbers. So it's not a grassroots effort. And saying that you're totally grassroots, I'm sorry, I don't accept it. And you talk about being a fiscal conservative and things like that, and looking at your report, it is developer money. We also see allocations on your expenses that you're expensing them out to yourself. You get $5,000 checks from the Republican Party as a social welfare system almost, going for Facebook ads. So, I mean, I don't think you're the responsible one as far as answering to where the money's going to be going.
So, Christian, let me give you 30 seconds to respond. Then
yep, I want to get into that. So a couple things. Number one, Ruta, your attacks are completely ridiculous. Here's the deal. You have a campaign manager over here. I don't have a consultant. If you go through my expenses, I don't have a consultant. I'm running my own race.
So that's what's yourself.
Well, that's what happens when you pay for Facebook ads. You have to load in a credit card.
But why aren't
so that's
you
how it
using
works.
I have campaigned
I'm
before.
doing everything. If you want to go down to my treasurer, everything's full disclosure.
No, I'm just curious to see
but let
why
me just tell you.
they're
So
to
here's your
yourself.
problem, Ruta, is you ran for a seat in a special election against Margaret Good here locally for the Democrat Party. you are too extreme and too far left for the Democrat Party because you're a socialist. You're a Bernie Sanders socialist.
Oh.
You're an activist for Bernie Sanders. You advocate for Medicare for all. Let me tell you, Sarasota County, 97% they approve of what's going on in Sarasota County.
I think we are beyond the rebuttal phase there.
Yeah.
No, I think that's only fair.
No, but this doesn't have to do with anything socialist. If you're looking
It
at
does.
socialist, well, then you should
Hold
answer
on.
to getting a
So,
$5,000
all right,
check from the
90
Republican
folks,
Party for
hold
doing
on one
nothing.
second. Let's change topics slightly and talk about something that's also on the ballot this fall that's very important to many people in this community, and that is single-member districts. Because, Ruta, I know a lot of the Democrats believe that they may fare better if there are single-member districts in this county, but Republicans would say to you, you know, this has been tried and it failed as an experiment years ago. Why try to do it again?
Well, I think the reason for single-member districts, I didn't live here when they voted on it prior and then they voted it out. I think they need to try it, and what it does is it eliminates all this money going to one person where the developers can kind of make an influence, and rather you're going to answer to the constituents. And I think what happened now, I think the voters are getting smarter. I really think that people are getting fed up with not having representation. I went to several commission meetings recently where the public is coming out, whether it's Celery Fields or Siesta Promenade, with real issues and concerns because they're getting affected by what the commissioners are deciding on in that area. If it went to single-member districts, those commissioners who were making some of these comments would never be reelected because their constituents are so outraged at what's happening in their immediate area. When it's spread over 80%, it gets washed out. So I really think the single-member district will give much more accountability to that commissioner, to the people.
So here's the problem with single-member district is overnight, if you enact single-member districts, 80% of your representation on the county commission will be eliminated. You'll lose 80% of your vote because you'll only be allowed to vote for one commissioner instead of deciding on all 5. Instantly, 80% of your accountability on the county commission will be eliminated because you only have one representing you. Right now, all 5 have to be elected by you and hired by you, or they can be fired by you, and all 5 are accountable to you. Look, I'm excited to represent Northport. I think that, you know, River Road's something that needs to get done. I mean, I'm bullish about what's happening with the Braves. I think Venice, you start going down there, we need to look at the parks, we need to look at the beaches and clean water that's affecting that area. Ruta, let me finish. And here's my concern. I think the real question, Alan, if you want to give a genuine question to Ruta, is why are you running for a seat that you don't want to represent 80% of the people? Because that's what she's advocating for. She's advocating for not representing Northport, not representing Inglewood, not representing Venice. I'm excited, and I'm very excited about representing those areas.
Sure. Well, for you to say that you can represent 80% of the people, how many people, if you go down to Northport with me tomorrow, and let's do this, and we'll go live, and we're going to ask how many of those people, how many can name their commissioner just in that district, not even all 5, just one. They will not be able to do so, Christian, so it's not good representation. I'm sorry.
All right, let's try to get one other topic in here or more. Christian, you told us in the story that we just aired that you are running because we're dependent on good, clean beaches, good, clean environment. We are surrounded by it. People are here and they relocate here because of that. But again, if you look at your social media profile, I can't recall a tweet or an entry about red tide, about the toxic algae bloom. And I'm wondering, who do you blame for red tide right now? You were with Governor Scott today. Does he bear any responsibility for it?
Alan, what you just said was actually false. You're obviously not looking at my stuff. I have a Sarasota County Commission page on there. Just about 2 weeks ago, I popped into a red tide meeting that was on Siesta Key, a nice pano shot of just how many people were there. I have posts with Michael Holderness, who's on Siesta Key, that's very concerned about clean water and other issues with our bay and our environment. I have countless posts talking about this stuff.
Right,
I have countless.
Does the state bear any responsibility for what?
Look, I think we all have a responsibility for our environment. You look at clean water. I know locally, look, and now you're asking about the state, you're asking about the federal government. Why don't we talk about the local stuff that needs to happen? And when you start talking about the local area, it's not Lake Okeechobee. Lake Okeechobee is a big problem, and thankfully Ron DeSantis, the Republican running for governor, is addressing that. But locally, what we can do is what's called modernizing our stormwater. It's something that needs to be addressed so when water and fertilizer and all that water gets trapped and funnels through the system, that it's being treated and not dumped directly into our bays and our Gulf. So that's something that I've been talking about, because Paul Caragiulo, whose seat I'm running for and who supports me, has been a champion on modernizing stormwater, and I'm going to follow in those footsteps.
That is a response in terms of an idea that deals with this problem locally. Ruda, your response?
Sure. As far as red tide, I am actually endorsed by Sierra Club in the Democratic Environmental Caucus for my stands on the environment. Christian, to be honest, I've never seen you at any debate when it came to the environment, and there have been numerous ones where
Ruda, you go to
everybody-
debates with progressive Sarasota, Democrat Party
Ray
Sarasota.
Ray Pilon
so of course I wouldn't be at some of those.
No, Ray
But
Pilon was
here's
there.
the-
Alexandra
here's the
Pope
deal.
was there. Lourdes
Where were you
Ramirez,
at
where
Moat?
were
Why weren't you at the Moat Marine
Because
press
I
conference on that
actually
issue?
I actually was
See?
one-on-one on
That's what
stage
you can
with
say
the
that.
Moat Marine.
You can
So,
say that all day
no,
long,
Christian,
Ruda. You can
and
say
I
that
am going to say it all
We can
day
go back
long.
and,
And it
where were
won't
you at the
be-
luncheon last
I'll tell
week
you what.
with
It
Moat
won't
Marine?
be,
You weren't there.
Christian.
You weren't
It
We
won't
there.
be.
have to take
You
a
weren't
quick
there.
break, and we'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Tonight, the race for the Sarasota County Commission District 2, and joining us is Ruda Gennari and Christian Ziegler. We have about 3.5 minutes. I want to get two issues really quickly. One would be the celery fields. It's before the County Commission right now. Critics say that opponents of any kind of development are arguing over one piece of parcel in an otherwise very large area. Are environmentalists and those opposed to the development there overplaying their hand, Ruda?
I don't think so. They live there, and they want to make sure that they have an area where they can bring their kids, not worry about heavy trucks going down, breaking up concrete, adding pollutants to the water. It's a bird sanctuary, it's a retreat. So many people, when they can't go to the beach now, especially with red tide and it's killing all of our business, at least we have celery fields so people can go walk, they can go bird watch. So I don't think it's overplaying, and I think the fact that the commissioners aren't listening to the people is outrageous. Sorry.
I think celery fields are a gem for Sarasota County. I take my girls there. We like walking up the big, they call it the big mountain. And, you know, we go up there, we do our lap around there, get back in our car and come home. There's great bird watching and everything, so it's something that's unique for Sarasota. Celery fields need to be protected. As for the land, I do think that the commission has made steps to listen to the people. You have the Fresh Start group that they've empowered to come up with some plans and some ideas, which I love. The fact that this is a citizen-initiated initiative for them to present some plans, and I know they're still working through the process. There's no real rush on it right now. And they're listening to the citizens. I think they have to go back to the drawing board. They're going to bring back some more plans, and that's what I like. I think it's great for government to do that.
Okay, one other issue. Tomorrow's show here on ABC 7 at 7 will be the County Commission's consideration of banning recreational marijuana sales in Sarasota County. I don't know if either one of you are aware, but it is currently illegal in the state of Florida. Christian, why is the County Commission wasting our time?
You'd have to ask the county commission why they're bringing this up for recreational marijuana, but I do know there's some concern that, you know, after medical marijuana, what happens is they're going to advocate most likely for recreational if you look at any other states or areas. I personally do not support recreational marijuana. I have yet to find anyone that has went and smoked marijuana and become more productive. Just personally, that's just something that I don't support. But as for the county taking action, to be honest, I don't know. You'd have to ask them.
But you know under preemption that even if the county made it legal, if the state made recreational marijuana legal, there is that issue that the community cannot basically do something that the state does not.
Yeah, and again, that's something that you'd have to talk to the current commission. I know the county attorney brought that up when this proposal was being discussed. And, you know, it's something that you'd have to ask them. But I think in Sarasota County, we do not want to become like California. We do not want to become like Colorado. I don't think recreational marijuana is good for Sarasota County.
Ruda?
Well, I don't know. I think the commissioners are acting out of line to actually discuss that. If anything, that should be put on a ballot to the people and let the people decide. Acting as a preemption because they're afraid that the state may one day actually go ahead and allow legalization, full legalization, and they're trying to preempt it to make sure it's grandfathered in is not appropriate. And I think it actually takes a lot of the rights away, basic rights of people. Put it to the people. If they say no, it's no.
So,
All right,
Ruda,
we
do
have
you
15
support it or
seconds.
oppose it? Recreational marijuana. I think this is an important issue.
It is an important
Yeah.
issue, and I do support it. I've never said
Okay.
I haven't. So
Okay.
it generates lots of revenue.
Okay, we have to take another quick break, and when we come back, we'll have closing remarks. Welcome back. We now turn to closing remarks for the two candidates in District 2 of the Sarasota County Commission. And Ruda, you start us off.
Sure. I just want to let the voters know that if they elect me, I'll have their back and I'll be their voice, not the voice of special interest or developers. I'll be fighting for the environment, for infrastructure, for affordable housing, sustainable growth and development. I won't be holding a selfie stick taking pictures of myself with elitists. That's not my style. My style is to be down in the dirt and fighting with everyone to make sure our voices are heard and that our county and quality of life is protected. So I'm asking for everyone's vote. And if I come knocking on your door, please say hello.
Christian.
Yes, so I've been in Sarasota County now for about 12 years. And in that time, I've had the fortunate opportunity of having experience in the State House, up in Congress, at the federal level, and then here at the local level. And my passion, Sarasota County, my wife and I, we work here. My wife and I, we live here. My parents retired here on Longboat Key. My two girls, I have a 5-year-old and I have a 2.5-year-old that are going to school here, and that, you know, hopefully eventually they'll come back here after college. I'm passionate about Sarasota County. I want Sarasota County to be the #1 place to raise a family, get a good paying job, and retire. We have our challenges, but I think everyone can agree Sarasota County is probably the best place to live in the entire country, maybe even the world. And whatever I can do to bring the county commission and direct it into a positive way forward, I'm going to do that, because I plan on never leaving Sarasota County. I literally have skin in the game, and I'm going to use that to motivate me to make Sarasota County #1 place in the country.
Well, Christian and Rutha, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Excellent job and good luck on the campaign trail. We'd like to thank our guests, Republican Christian Ziegler and Democrat Rutha Gianeri. That's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Coe. Thanks for joining us, and have a good night.